There were a few things that were going on with Alissa that we were a bit worried about. She had a rash that we just couldn't get to the bottom of. She also had recurring ear infections.
At the time, we're living interstate. We had flown down to Melbourne to see family. And when we were in Melbourne, her ear started playing up again.
Alissa's biopsy came back as positive for a disease called Langerhans cell histiocytosis.
So that's a disorder where one of your immune cells gets a molecular alteration that stops it from behaving normally.
It's the kind of disease that they say doctors sort of learn about in medical school but never see in practice.
She had it in her skin, her bones, her spleen, her liver, her bone marrow. So they needed to get on top of it really, really quickly.
LCH is, in most cases, very, very treatable.
And those words kind of carried me through our entire treatment journey. It started off with chemotherapy and a course of steroids. Initially, when she started that, she got better quite quickly, which was wonderful.
We had to move to a second line of treatment because it wasn't working well enough. And then on that second line of treatment, the disease then actually progressed.
That was a really rough chemotherapy. She was 4 months old at this stage, and constantly being nauseous, constantly throwing up. We did that course of treatment for 6 months.
When it's in many sites, it can continue to cause a huge inflammatory response.
And she just wasn't doing well. Like, I took her in for her appointment and she just didn't even have the energy to take her head off my chest. We were kind of at a loss then. Like, we thought we were doing the best chemo available and we thought that what she had was curable, but it wasn't working.
She developed quite a number of problems with how her liver and her spleen were functioning because the disease was causing this huge inflammatory response. It also meant that she had difficulty with her blood pressures and she had ongoing fevers and became incredibly unwell.
And it was during that stage that she was rushed to the ICU.
We were told that she probably only had a few days left. They wanted to try another really aggressive chemotherapy. Her body was so inflamed, but at that point we felt like we didn't have a choice.
Being sat down with Liana and just being told by the doctor that, we expect that she'll survive this, but you've got to prepare yourself for the reality that she might not.
Sometimes a disease becomes so strong that we have to make decisions that we may not have made initially. One of the newer treatments that had started to come about was a targeted therapy.
But the issue was whether she was going to be well enough and to be able to survive until they could get that into her and get it working.
We started noticing changes after probably 24 hours. She had all these tubes and stickers and wires attached to her, and one by one they were all coming off, and then I could recognise my baby again. We were discharged, I think, 6 days later.
The disease had completely disappeared.
We haven't had to stay back in the hospital since then. Like the treatment has just worked so remarkably well.
Everything we were going through, I just thought, this is part of the journey, this is what we need to do for it to be cured, this is what we need for it to be cured. And some parents don't have that. I can't imagine going through that without having that hope. And it turns out Alissa's disease wasn't curable. And we're still on the journey to try and get that cure.
She's 3, turning 4 now, and she's a wonderful little girl and a wonderful big sister to her baby brother as well. We're so fortunate and grateful to have been at the Children's.